Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by my ingenious co-host, Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. Ingenious. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, if everybody could see my blush.
She's fanning herself now like a southerner.
Like a debutante.
It's so funny. I had this phase in high school where I pretended that I had a southern accent.
Really?
I was actually a Girl Scout camp counselor, and one new group came in, and I just spoke to them in a southern accent.
Oh my gosh. Did anybody ask you where you were from? And did you make a backstory too?
Yeah. No, I did not make a backstory. If I was called on my accent, I'd be like, this isn't real.
Oh my goodness.
I can't.
Oh, you can tell that comes from your theater background.
My theater.
Mm-hmm.
I just liked it. I don't even think I could do it now, though. It would sound so weird.
I think if I do it, it's by accident. Like the only time I ever remember doing something like that and being called on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on a vacation when I was much younger. Like I don't know, maybe I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the Smoky Mountains, and so that's very, very a lot of that southern draw out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I started talking like that, and my sisters would tease me all the time. Like I would be somewhere and I don't even realize I was doing it.
Yeah.
And they would just stop talking like that. You're not from around here. Oh my goodness, that would so embarrass me.
Well, it's so interesting because we always do pick up the speech inflections of the people that we're around. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend I went to high school with. Her name's Jamie, and she's living in the UK now. And so when I last spoke to her, it's been a while, Jamie, if you're ever listening. But when I last spoke to her, she has a combination accent. She has a combination American and British.
Wow.
So it's not quite either, but it has it's different from when I went to high school with her, but it's not quite British. It's interesting.
Oh, Jamie, can we have you on the podcast?
Yeah.
I just want to sit and talk to you just to make you say things.
No, but you don't even realize it's happening. It happened the same thing when I was a camp counselor in Pennsylvania, and we had a lot of Australians there.
Oh.
And over the summer, their thick Australian accent would really disappear and become more Americanized. And then I was friends with one, so I spoke to him a little while later, and he was back in Australia for 3 or 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
and it came back full on thick.
Wow.
Couldn't understand him.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're I
No.
was just kind of repeat
So you
that.
just adopt to where you are. So no shame in going back to the southern accent when you.
Yeah. I wonder if
It's
I've lost some
interesting.
of that since I moved out here. But.
It's totally interesting. Anyways, today
So back to the podcast.
having nothing to do with anything whatsoever. So we really love to hear from you, and we like to hear ideas for episodes to do and struggles and challenges that you're having. And if you have any of those and you're listening right now and you're I would really like a podcast episode on this topic, you can email us. hello@noguiltmom.com. And our podcast episode today is one of those emails that we got.
Yes, we actually, a listener wrote in and requested a resource. We were able to locate one, and here you go.
Yeah, so this was from Catherine. She said, if sometime in the far-off future you could host a podcast on parenting while your spouse is away more than 60 to 100% of the year and how to balance life, I would be forever grateful. And also how parents in similar situations, not in similar situations, and she's particularly talking about military deployment, can still talk to us without feeling weird since they know the parenting loads are a little imbalanced at times. This is a common occurrence and leads to unnecessary and unwanted isolation.
Which has got to be hard with COVID.
It's got to be hard. And it's something that I never realized too with military families. And we delve into a lot in this episode. Our guest is Lauren Tamm. She is the founder of the Military Wife and Mom, and she's also a language of listening master parent coach and creator of Raising Little Listeners, a language of listening course for parents of toddlers through school-age kids. And we ask her all the questions, and she's so open and really honest about the isolation that military families feel, especially when they move into civilian neighborhoods where people aren't really familiar with the lifestyle and really know how to welcome people in. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Lauren Tamm.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, Lauren. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm pretty excited to get to talk with you guys today.
I'm so thankful that you agreed to come on with us because we got that email from a listener whose spouse is away and deployed for 60 to 100% of the time during the year. And she just feels really isolated and not knowing how to balance life as a single parent during that time while your spouse is doing something that potentially puts them in danger as well. So you're a busy mom. Tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Sure. So I met my husband in the Midwest, and he was in the military, and we were long distance for years. Eventually I moved down there to North Carolina where he was stationed at the time. And about a year or so after that, we married and started our family. And I was an ICU nurse at the time. I worked at the bedside as an ICU nurse for over 8 years. And after I had my son and became a parent, my husband was gone all the time. And it just felt too demanding to continue working these 12-hour shifts. And often as a nurse, when you go to work at a new job, you work the night shift. So you need childcare at night and during the day so that you can sleep. And it just felt very overwhelming, this idea. And so I left my job and had a really hard time sitting still at home. And so I ended up creating Military Wife and Mom to give myself a purpose, something to focus on, to pour my energy into beyond just being at home with a 6-month-old, which, as you can imagine, is just wild party every day,
Oh my gosh. I could totally relate. I started No Guilt Mom for the same reason. I quit my job as a teacher because I had a little one at home. It wasn't really that my spouse was out and deployed though. It wasn't I still had support here at home, but I just couldn't handle everything. And you're bored and you need that outlet to reach out to people. And so, you start a blog.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just poured a lot of time into it, and it started growing, and I enjoyed being able to give a voice to reality and authenticity of parenting and military life. I often find that's a side that's lacking, this idea that even now where I'm at as a parent coach, that I'm human. I still yell at my kids. I still have days where I'm really struggling. My kids still do things that are very annoying and irritating because we're all human, and trying to share that aspect with everyone, knowing that even when you have all these tools in place, that you're still going to have some hard days. And that's the real part of it. And being able to share that, I think, has been refreshing for myself and hopefully refreshing for readers. But now here I am, Military Wife and Mom, 6 or 7 years old. And I am now a parent coach and continue to write for the site. And that's where I'm at today.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I love the authenticity because also it makes people feel like they're not alone.
Right.
It's like that dirty little secret. We all like to present things so well. I've got it together. I gave my kid choices. And then we all have those moments where, things just become overwhelming.
They do.
And like you just said, we're human. And it's so great to realize that other people experience that. We all have our moments.
Definitely.
Hey, all, Bree here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org. So what's been your biggest challenge as a mom to two little ones when your spouse is deployed?
Like, where do I start?
I'm sure.
I think the biggest challenge is that there's no way to anticipate that on Wednesday at 2:30 in the afternoon, you're going to be at your limit for whatever reason that day. And you're not going to have something in place to relieve yourself. There's no partner there to call and say, hey, I'm about to lose it. You need to get home as soon as possible so that the children are still alive. When you have a spouse that's home, you have this ability to, on short notice, go to them and say, hey, I really need to trade, or I just need a break. And you don't know that that's going to happen next Friday at 8:30 when, you just had it with your toddler crying about the red cup for the 100th time. And you just can't be there and go into it with them anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the hardest part.
Not having that tap out. You don't have a tap out.
Right. Exactly. You can do all these things, right? But you still don't get that tap out that you normally would have when they're there.
When I was going through the blog, there was a post that I read, 10 things not to say to a military spouse or something. And it said, my spouse's deployment is not the same thing as your husband going on a fishing trip.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so does that mean I can't ask what it's like for the people that have a spouse that travels a ton and is never there? Is that insulting to say them? Because I know it's not a combat zone, but the loneliness and feeling isolated is similar. So
yeah, I think that, a military spouse isn't insulted by it, someone who has their spouse gone 60% of the time. It's when someone's trying to equate a hobby to going into combat.
Like no hobby. Widow. Is your husband away right now?
No, he's been home for almost 4 years now.
Almost 4 years. Is there any plans in the future for him to be deployed, or how does that work?
No, not at this point. For 10 years, the first 10 years of our relationship, he was gone 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And so then when we moved here, he was home. And then he was like coming home for lunch while I was blogging and cooking bacon. And I was like, why are you here? So now, we're kind of out of that phase. Plus, like Iraq and Afghanistan, they're deploying there still, but not at the level that it was before. And so plus, like the longer you're in, he's in a more leadership role now. They just don't utilize people in his role to necessarily go overseas to do stuff.
So right now you're in Southern California. How often do you have to move?
Well, typically in the Marine Corps, it's about every 3 years. Air Force is worse. Air Force is like every 2. But we've been here for almost 4. And I think by the time we leave, it'll be almost 5, which is unusual. But we aren't really in a desirable location. We're in the high desert.
Are you 29 Palms, like around that area?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's very different than being like Oceanside.
Right.
Like California, yay.
It's like I look to the left, there's nothing. I look to the right, there's nothing.
So,
right. Well, there's a tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed. Yeah. So when you have to move that often, how hard is it to make connections with other families?
If you're living on base or in a military dense area, it isn't hard. And when it is hard is when you're living with a civilian population, because most people who are in their neighborhoods already have their circle of friends and they aren't always interested in welcoming somebody new into that. So I think that's when it gets harder, is when you're more disconnected, because military, like we're all in the same situation. We are craving speed dating friendship wise, right? And so it's really easy, I think, on base or in an area where there's just a ton of military people.
But it's harder among civilians where they don't exactly understand the lifestyle or...
Sure.
Or they may not even realize it. Like, how do you, hi, I'm in the military.
Or they may not be particularly interested in understanding it either, because it's like, well, why do I want to be friends with that person? Because they're just going to move in a couple of years. Like,
that would be really hard.
So that hasn't been my experience personally, because we've always lived close to base, but I know many people who've experienced that. Or even like someone I knew went to a church and they like created a Bible study just for the military spouses in their church, and they didn't incorporate them into their regular women's study, which I found very odd. But she was just telling me about it. Like that was her experience of them sort of trying to like keep them in their little box,
So in your experience and what you've heard from other people is people tend to put military families into like buckets and kind of separate it.
Yeah. And I think ones who sometimes have it the hardest are the National Guard spouses, because they're living in regular life with a service member who's gone 2 weekends a month and then deploys also. And there's no support. Like you don't even live near a base where you can access a lot of those resources. And that makes it pretty hard for them. And they're amongst civilians who, that's when I think they probably encounter the comparison of the fishing trip, or perhaps even a 2-day work trip, to this 6 or 7 months deployment that's coming up kind of thing. And that can be really isolating for them.
What do you wish people would do when there's a military family in the neighborhood? How do you wish people would approach the situation?
To assume that they're never going to ask for help, even though they need it. I think military families in general have a mentality that I won't ask for help unless literally the whole house is engulfed in flames. And they're just self-sufficient, do it on my own, try not to complain about it. Because if you complain, people are going to complain that you're complaining or kind of shame you for complaining. And so instead of saying, let me know if you need anything, change that to, I'm going to cook you dinner this week and drop it off. What night would work for you? Or I'd love to watch your kids for 3 hours this month. Give me a date in the next, couple weeks that will work for you, and I'll pencil it in. And just to assume that they want help and present it in that way. And then worst case scenario, they can really push you away and say, no, I'm good. I don't need that. Instead of waiting for them to tell you, because they never will.
Yeah. And I think that's really great advice, because when you're offered help, you assume that people are doing it just to be nice, and you graciously say, oh, no, thank you, I'm okay. But when you ask in that way, being like, I am going to help you, you just need to pick the time, I think that makes people more accepting to the help. And it's a great way to frame the question.
It definitely puts you in a spot where by saying no, it's being you're just like,
yeah, you're the jerk.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I really can't say no. That's being rude.
But I think like people are very resistant on accepting help because like they don't want to put people out. You don't want to put people out. You don't want to like assume that they actually have the time to help you, even though they're saying, I want to help you. I love it.
Right.
I love that. You have some tips about how people can really thrive and survive when their spouse is away. And one of those you said is putting systems into place. Tell us about that.
This idea that in order to be able to really focus on your kids and be in the present moment with them, there's a lot of things that you can take off your plate and not have to worry about. So the first thing I usually recommend is to try to get a mother's helper, which is to get a tween, maybe 11 or 12 years old, to come to your house and play with your kids while you get things done. And you can get things done so much faster when you have a teen or a tween. Now, you can pay them a really low hourly rate, but in many situations, especially if you go through a church or ask anyone who might have a child who's working on community service, they will come for free and do that as community service to your family for, doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a couple hours a week to kind of get things off your plate. And then there's more obvious things like automating your toilet paper and paper towel deliveries from Amazon using Subscribe and Save.
Yay, Amazon.
You do that, Joanne, and I am very jealous of it. I think it's brilliant. I don't know why I haven't done it myself. Lauren, that is so simple and yet so easily achievable.
Right. I mean, there's no reason why you should have to go to the store with 2 young children and be worrying about hauling a giant thing of toilet paper around with you.
Right.
That sounds like a really easy thing to do. You got a toddler under your arm like a football, and then the toilet paper is here. Oh, wait, you got like 8 other grocery bags to carry. And then there's a lot of routines in the home that I would put in place, things like independent playtime, where they learn to play by themselves for an hour in their room, and strategically tying that to when you may do your screen time, which may come after independent playtime. And there, all of a sudden, you have 2-hour chunk of time that you can read a book or relax or, get something done that's important to you.
I love it. So get a mother's helper, automate some of those services, and then establish those routines. I think those are all wonderful systems to put in place.
And as a mother of a tween, that would make a great mother's helper. I think that you could probably, I think somebody could probably bribe my daughter with like, I'll buy you a Starbucks.
Right.
You can
I'll buy you a Coke. It should be, oh my God.
That is genius.
Oh
yeah. Or even bribe her with a $5 Starbucks gift card
Right?
or something, and then she can go get her drink on her own.
Yes.
There you
Gosh,
go.
I might just post on Facebook. I'm like, who needs a tween for mother's helper?
I love that term, the mother's helper. I hadn't thought of that, but that's brilliant. And you know what? I remember when I first started babysitting, way back in the day, that's what I started with. Was I had a neighbor across the street, and I would come over and help out while she did some stuff around the house and had her 2 littles. So yeah, that's awesome. That's brilliant.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Bree, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well.
Systems are important, but you also say that you need some boundaries.
Yeah. When your child is crying, for example, you may feel this compelling need to like do something about it, right? Because kids are supposed to be calm and like emotionally put together, right? Or something that's yeah.
Right, Brie and I are going like,
you think that in your head, but at the same time, the other part of your head is like, okay, that is just crazy. That's just crazy.
Right.
When have you ever seen that happen? Never.
Or here's another good one, that small child is supposed to go and say an authentic apology to another child that something happened with at the playground. So really the idea of boundaries is to check in with yourself, and here's how I do it. Any given moment that you're in during the day, you close your eyes and you say, am I okay with this? Am I not okay with this? And that's how you get to the conclusion of, is this a real boundary for you? Or is this just a should that you feel like you're supposed to do because that's what everybody else tells you to do?
Those get me all the time, those should do's.
And I love practicing giving yourself permission for it. Because again, like what might be your boundary may not be the same boundary that your sister has or that your best friend has. And that's okay.
Yeah. And here's my tip for when someone else doesn't have the same boundary as you. You either say, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with doing it the way I'm doing it. And it works for me. Just leave it at that. You don't have to have reasons for why your boundaries are the way they are. You can just simply say, it's because I'm okay with it.
You don't have to have an explanation. I love it. Because sometimes when we say no, I don't know if this is conditioned in us as women or why we do this, but we feel like we have to give our complete like rationalization of why the no happens instead of just saying, no,
I do that all the time. I know, yeah, there's always a 20-page reason for it.
Yeah.
Even if I just keep giving the same reason over and over and over, because I have to keep saying it until you go, oh, you're right. Even though I don't need somebody else to validate it.
Yeah. It's this whole idea that it's not okay to want what you want unless there's 20 different reasons because you have all this other stuff that's going to make you busy. It's not okay just to say, I just don't want to.
Right. Yes. So that brings us actually to your last tip you have about what you want matters too.
Yeah, it's really easy to fall into this culture idea of we are going to do it all and we're going to be happy doing it. And that what you want matters too. We often forget that and are willing to be self-sacrificing. Oh, we'll just be self-sacrificing for 18 years until our kids leave the house. And then I'll get to do what I want to do finally.
Such a trap we fall into that we think to be like best mom possible, we have to give everything to our kids and not at all look at what we need and what we like deserve as humans.
I think it's interesting because if you can take that step back and look at yourself through your child's eyes when you're trying to do it all, lots of times that makes us more physically tired. We don't have as much patience. Our social life, friendships will suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship with our partner may even suffer. And is that what you want your child to have? Is that what you want your child to look at and go, that's what I want to be? No.
Yeah. So it also shows your child, it models for them what it's like to have personal boundaries and how to set them. Here's a quick example. So my kids go up to their bedroom at 7:00. It's been like this pretty much their entire lives. And it's not because they actually need to go to sleep. It's because that is when I am going to focus on what I want and prioritize that what I want matters. And they don't have to go to sleep, but they can't stay downstairs. That's just one example of how you can carve out that time to focus on yourself too. It doesn't have to cost money and you don't have to have a sitter. You could do these things even when your partner isn't around.
So I am guilty of letting my kids like push bedtime a bit and not prioritizing that time for myself, because they give you all these arguments in the moment. They're like, oh, well, we don't have to wake up because we're doing virtual schooling, and you get stuck in that excuses and again, rationalization instead of just setting that boundary, being like, okay, nope, this is my time and you need to go upstairs now during my time. I need to do that.
I'm smiling over here because my kids are 12 and 13. I have to go chase them down in the house and be like, talk to me. So those boundaries are way out there. I'm like, I have to, mine's flip flop. Will you come downstairs just for an hour and hang out with me? Oh gosh. But yeah, I remember those. I do remember those days. And it was important in our household. The kids went to bed at a certain time. And it was very similar to what you were saying, Lauren. Like, it was just like, okay, you don't have to go to sleep, but you can't hang out here anymore. You'll get your story. You lay in bed. You can play with your toys as long as you're in bed.
Right.
I'm thinking closing time in my head.
It is, yes.
You don't have to go home,
time.
but you can't stay here.
That's right. That's the song I often reference. So true. It's awesome that you literally just thought of that, because I give that example.
Yeah,
all the time.
start playing it when it's time for bed. That's our new bedtime song. You know, you have the cleanup song. Now you have the closing time song for bedtime.
So you've given us so many great tips that we can use to really take care of ourselves and make things run easier when we're doing it solo. We ask this of everybody. What is your favorite hack to making your kids more self-sufficient?
Ooh, so visual aids, because as adults, we've had all these decades of experience with language proficiency. So we're very verbal. Kids are not, in the way that they understand concepts or try to understand things, or the way that they remember things is often visually triggered. So if you can create some sort of visual for a young child, right? I think that's what we're referring to with maybe self-sufficiency, or I suppose even like teens, I'm not sure. But having those visual aids, routine reminders of helping a child, or brushing teeth reminders, some sort of visual for them to be able to follow, makes a really big difference, because that's how their brain works. They have to see it.
And I'll tell you, teens do appreciate and or need that, because they don't want to hear me nagging them 16 times. So
Correct,
yeah.
right?
I try to find them in forms of decoration. Like I have a nice little sign in the bathroom that says, "Don't forget to flush."
Song sign. It's home decor visual aid.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, isn't it pretty? If you read the sign all the time, do it. But no, that's a really good point. Actually, because again, for teens, I actually have something like that set up at my house for my kids during the summer. They have a summer checklist they have to do. And I lost it this summer. And my kids complained almost every week that they needed that checklist, because I would come home and I'd be like, did you do this? Did you do that? No. And I'll be like, guys, we've been doing this for 4 years now.
Right.
And they always would come back to you, but we used to have the list, and I would check off the list every day. So I think that's a really great point. No matter what the age is, it's very helpful.
Definitely. So what is coming up for you that you're excited about, Lauren?
To focus on relaxing. And here's what I'll say about that. When we prioritize all of these peer relationships or all of these things outside of our household, we deprioritize the strength of our relationship as a family unit. And if you're able to shift that focus a little bit and start prioritizing inwardly more, I think that's a really exciting thing to think about personally for me. I want to read more books. I want to spend more time with my kids, not being irritated and annoyed. And I want to play with my dog. I mean, this all sounds really trivial.
It's all fun stuff, though. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us. It has been such a pleasure. We've loved talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
First, I love meeting Lauren because I don't remember if I said this in the episode, but like I've been following her for years and never got a chance to talk to her in person.
Oh, wow. That's always really amazing when you have that person that you know from following them and then you get to actually meet them. It's a little bit, I get a little starstruck when that happens.
That's one of the best things about, I think, having a podcast is like we have those excuses now to go out and be like, hey, you want to be on a podcast? But really, I really want to meet you.
I know, right? It's like there's so many people I could be like, hey, I know so-and-so. Yeah, interviewed her for the podcast. Pretty awesome person. We're friends. We're friends now.
Something that Lauren, though, said in the episode was this conversation we had about boundaries. And I have to admit, like, I am working on my boundaries because especially the ones where I need the free time. I mean, I was feeling this pinch the other day where I worked all day and then I basically transitioned from working to being present at home, even though, like, I work from home. So that's an interesting transition right there.
No stop time between the two.
Yeah, there's no stop time.
Like, you shut your computer off and walked right into mom.
Basically, yeah. So there is no time for me to shut off my brain whatsoever. None. And I feel like they have to stay up like later so that I put in this like parenting and together time, but I have no time for myself because as soon as they go to bed, I am exhausted and I have to go to bed too.
That is important, trying to find how to do that, especially right now with the whole working from home situation, trying to find that balance of where it's okay and not feeling guilty.
It's hard. It's really hard because you tell your kids you need a break and they're like, don't you love us, mommy? I'm like, it's not about that.
Don't make me feel guilty.
So boundaries are hard. So I really want to start making some boundaries and being like, hey, I'm going to go up by myself and do this thing. Or you guys both need to go to bed right now so I can have some time.
Yeah. With us, when my kids were younger, my ex, he needed a lot of sleep time. So our kids went to bed pretty early, a lot earlier than most kids. So you're right. Those boundaries are very important because you need that time to be refreshed and be able to be there and trying to not only get those boundaries, but not letting the guilt keep you from those boundaries.
Exactly.
That's the tricky part.
That's the hard thing.
So that's going to be a goal there.
Yes, a goal. Yeah. Boundaries. Yeah. So remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks so much for stopping by. Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.